Every night, Isabella found herself stepping into the same dream. The moment her eyes closed, reality slipped away, and she would awaken in a place that seemed to belong not to the past or the future, but to something entirely beyond time. The meadow stretched endlessly, its tall grasses silvered by moonlight. A river glowed faintly as though lit from within, casting pale ripples across the ground. Above her, strange luminous birds moved like constellations come alive, their wings leaving shimmering trails in the velvet sky. In this world, she was never afraid. Instead, she felt whole, more herself than she ever did in the daylight. And waiting for her, always, was him, James. He stood at the end of the path, as if he had been expecting her all along. His eyes, deep and impossibly familiar, carried the warmth of a memory she had never lived. They would speak for hours in this world where time did not seem to pass, sometimes about their lives, sometimes about nothing at all. He would tell her stories of books he'd read or places he longed to see. She would answer with laughter or with secrets she had never shared aloud before. Sometimes they touched hands, and in that small gesture, Isabella felt the rush of something both dangerous and irresistible. The ache of knowing that this connection was not supposed to exist would not be denied. When she woke, her chest ached. The emptiness of her apartment seemed sharper after the brightness of the meadow. She tried to dismiss it as a trick of the mind, but her heart refused to obey. Across the city, James stirred from the same dream. The woman's face, Isabella's, lingered with him long after his alarm rang. He would sit on the edge of his bed, his head in his hands, trying to convince himself that what he saw every night was only his imagination. And yet when he closed his eyes, he could still hear her laughter. He could still feel her hand in his. Dreams do not leave fingerprints, he told himself. But these dreams had already carved themselves into his soul.
The day was gray and wet, rain soaking the city and driving people into cafes, bookstores, and train stations for shelter. Isabella hurried into a small cafe she had never visited before, shaking droplets from her hair. The air inside was warm and smelled of roasted beans, honey, and cinnamon. She ordered a coffee and found a seat near the window. Pulling a book from her bag, she tried to lose herself in its pages, but her mind kept wandering. Her dreams had been different lately, sharper, as though the line between night and day were thinning. She felt tired in a way sleep could not fix. The bell above the door chimed. Isabella glanced up, and her heart stopped. A man stepped in from the rain, brushing water from his jacket. His movements were ordinary, yet something in them made the air shift. His profile, the angle of his jaw, the way he paused before the counter. She knew him too well. Her pulse quickened. No, it can't be. James turned. For a moment, both froze. The cafe, with its soft jazz music and murmuring voices, seemed to dissolve around them, leaving only silence. His eyes, those same eyes that had looked at her under moonlit skies in another world, locked onto hers. Recognition flared in them, shock, and something else. He crossed the room slowly, as though afraid the vision might vanish. Isabella's hands trembled around her coffee cup. "Do I know you?" James asked, his voice low, uncertain. Her throat went dry. She wanted to laugh, to deny, to run, but instead words slipped out before she could stop them. Only every night. The silence that followed was louder than any sound. For the first time, dreams and reality collided, and neither of them could pretend anymore. After that morning in the cafe, Isabella and James could no longer ignore the pull between them. Each night, their dreams grew more vivid, more intricate. They wandered through meadows where the grass shimmered like molten silver, sailed along rivers glowing with a soft inner light, and climbed mountains made of crystal that reflected not only the stars but the deepest corners of their own souls. During these dreams, their conversations deepened. James shared stories of his childhood, of quiet streets and afternoons spent reading by the river. Isabella spoke of her love for music and the way she sometimes felt invisible in a world that demanded certainty. "You know," James said one night, as the two of them sat on a hill watching luminous birds trace patterns across the sky, "I feel like I've known you forever, not just in dreams, somehow in every lifetime, maybe." Isabella's gaze fell to her hands. She wanted to laugh at his boldness, but the truth was undeniable. Every touch, every glance in the dream world left impressions she could not erase upon waking. I feel the same," she admitted softly. But the waking world was not so kind. Every time she saw him in daylight, the connection felt fragile, fragile as spun glass. Fear shadowed her. What if this was impossible? What if when morning came, they were nothing more than strangers again? James reached for her hand, bridging the gap between dream and reality. "We have to find a way. Whatever this is, it's bigger than coincidence. It's not just a dream, it's us." And in that instant, Isabella realized that she had been waiting for him, perhaps across lifetimes, without ever knowing it.
As days passed, Isabella noticed that their dream world had begun to change. The once bright meadow sometimes dimmed under shadowed clouds. The glowing river rippled darkly, and the birds that once trailed starlight had gone silent. Fear gnawed at her chest, an unspoken warning that something was wrong. James, ever restless, began to research obsessively. He read accounts of soul bonds in ancient myths, stories of two people sharing a single dream across lifetimes. The more he read, the more he realized that what they were experiencing was not just rare, it was almost impossible. One night, beneath the glowing trees of their dream meadow, a figure appeared. It was cloaked in shadows, faceless yet impossibly present, and its voice rolled across the dreamscape like distant thunder. "Your souls chose each other long ago," it whispered. "But choice remains. Accept it, and the worlds will merge. Deny it, and all will be lost." Isabella felt a chill run down her spine. "What does it mean?" she asked, clutching James' hand. "It means," James said, his jaw tight with determination, "that we have to choose. We have to decide if we're brave enough to trust what we feel, or we'll lose this forever." For the first time, the dream felt heavy, fraught with stakes far beyond the joy and magic that had drawn them together. Their bond was no longer just a secret comfort. It was a responsibility, one that demanded courage neither of them fully understood yet.
Daylight tested them in ways the dream world never could. Isabella found herself walking the streets with James by her side, each step heavy with the awareness that their connection was extraordinary and terrifying. She longed to surrender fully, yet every instinct warned her that reality might not allow it. James carried burdens of his own. His career, obligations, and family expectations tugged him in directions that felt completely opposite to the pull of this inexplicable love. He wanted to trust it, to embrace the bond they shared, but the fear of losing everything he knew kept him hesitant. Meanwhile, the dream world mirrored their doubts. Storm clouds gathered above the meadow, rivers swelled and foamed, and the luminous birds that once guided them vanished. Shadows crept along the grass like creeping vines, waiting for their moment. The more they resisted, the more violently the dreams responded. "You feel it too, don't you?" Isabella whispered one night, gripping James's hand as the wind whipped around them. "The world is trying to tear us apart." James nodded, jaw tight. "I do. But maybe that's the point. Maybe it's not enough to want this. We have to fight for it." And fight they would. They just didn't yet know how.
Desperate for answers, Isabella turned to old books, legends, and forgotten archives. Late nights were spent poring over manuscripts that spoke of soul bonds, connections that spanned lifetimes, where two people met in dreams before ever meeting in life. Her pulse quickened as she read an old journal, its pages yellowed with age. The writer described a man and a silver meadow, a love that seemed to transcend death itself. Isabella's hands shook. She could swear the words were speaking directly to her. James uncovered records of a man whose life mirrored the journal. Their eyes widened as pieces of a puzzle fell into place. Two lives separated by centuries, sharing the same dreams. Their connection was not random, it was ancient, destined, and somehow waiting for this moment. "They've been waiting for us," James said, almost breathless. "All this time, their love, it's been leading to us." Isabella swallowed hard. "But why us? Why now?" James shook his head. "I don't know, but if it's meant to be, then we can't run from it." The world outside their dreams fought them at every turn. James's family voiced their disapproval, warning him against the distractions Isabella might bring. His friends dismissed her as a fleeting fascination, nothing more. Isabella, too, felt pressure. Friends whispered that she was getting lost in fantasy, and doubt gnawed at her resolve. The tension bled into their dream world. The meadow darkened further. Rivers churned with black water, and the luminous birds retreated. A shadow began taking shape, an ominous presence, feeding on fear and hesitation, intent on severing their bond. Isabella and James clung to each other, even as fear gnawed at them. "If we give up now," Isabella said quietly, "we'll never find this again. Not in dreams, not in life." James held her gaze. "Then we don't give up. We fight, no matter what it costs." And so together, they braced for the coming storm. One night, as the full moon bathed the meadow in silver, the shadow manifested fully. Cloaked and faceless, it loomed above the glowing river, its presence heavy and commanding. "Choose," it said, a voice echoing like rolling thunder. "Bind yourselves completely, or sever the bond forever. One path brings unity, the other freedom, and loss beyond imagining." Isabella's hands shook. "What if we choose wrong?" James pulled her close, steadying her with his presence. "Then at least we choose together. I won't let this take you away from me, no matter what." The shadow's eyes, if it had eyes, glowed faintly, as if testing their resolve. The air trembled. The river churned blackly. The birds had all but disappeared, leaving a silence that pressed against their ears like a living thing. They understood now. Their love was not simply a dream, not merely a fleeting passion. It was a force that demanded courage. Their choice would shape both worlds, the waking one and the one that had existed for centuries in dreams.
The night was thick with tension. The meadow, once radiant, now trembled under the shadow's oppressive presence. The river roared, black water churning violently, and the luminous birds had vanished completely. Even the stars seemed to waver in the sky, uncertain, as if holding their breath. Isabella gripped James's arm tightly, her heart pounding in rhythm with the thunder of the river. I can't lose this," she whispered, fear and desperation entwined in her voice. James's eyes held hers, unwavering. "Then we fight, no matter what." The shadow advanced, looming like a wall between them. Every instinct screamed at Isabella to flee, to abandon the impossible dream. But James's hand on hers anchored her. She remembered every shared glance, every laugh, every touch, memories stretching across centuries, lifetimes, and dreams. And then, without thinking, she spoke out loud. "We choose together." The shadow recoiled, as if her words carried a power it could not resist. The river's fury softened, the trees stopped shivering, and a soft light began to emanate from the ground beneath them. It was the first sign that the bond could survive, if only they had the courage to embrace it fully.
The air was electric as James drew Isabella closer. "If this is a dream," he said softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face, "then let it last forever. If it's real, then I choose it. I choose you." Tears pricked Isabella's eyes. Her own voice barely rose above a whisper. "And I choose you, James, always." Their lips met, and light exploded around them. The meadow bloomed brighter than it ever had, rivers sparkled with silver, and the shadows dissipated like mist. The luminous birds returned, weaving constellations above them, a living celebration of their union. In that moment, the boundary between dream and reality dissolved. They were no longer separate entities inhabiting two worlds. They were one, bound across time, space, and memory. Days passed, but the intensity of their connection did not fade. Isabella and James walked the streets of their city, hands intertwined, smiles shared in private moments and public spaces alike. Every laugh, every touch, every glance was charged with the memory of their shared dream world. They discovered each other anew. James's quiet humor that made her laugh until her ribs ached, Isabella's intuitive kindness that grounded him, the small, unspoken gestures that revealed more than words ever could. At night, they returned to the meadow, not as fragile dreamers, but as people fully awake, fully alive, fully present in the worlds that had waited for them to embrace the bond. Time no longer held power over them. In daylight, they lived ordinary lives, yet every moment was infused with the extraordinary knowledge of their connection. At night, their dream world waited, luminous and endless, a world that had existed for centuries, for them alone. The past was no longer a mystery. They understood that in every lifetime they had found each other, and in every lifetime they had chosen each other. They didn't need validation from anyone else.
No one else could understand the depths of their love, and they didn't care, because they knew a truth that transcended reason, space, and even death. Their love was eternal. Some loves exist beyond time, beyond reason, beyond the waking world. Some loves live in every heartbeat, in every breath, in every dream. Isabella and James walked together through both worlds, through the ordinary city streets and the luminous meadows of the night, knowing that they were not bound by the rules of reality. They were bound by each other, and that bond would endure forever.